guys.
Hey, it's Kelly and
This is Tyler.
we are
The
the
Jordans
Jordans
Create.
Create. Welcome back.
Today we are talking about the hardest things about being a parent.
Right. And I was actually just thinking, quick disclaimer, talking about the hardest things about being a parent at this phase. Because we have 4 children that are under 10.
Right.
So we won't be talking about like adolescent or teenage issues or anything
Right.
like that. Our oldest child is 8 and our youngest is almost 18 months. So we're talking about the hardest things about parenting from our perspective at this level with the younger ones.
So let's dive right in. Hardest things about being a parent. So the first thing that we want to address is anxiety and fear.
Now, in what ways do you mean? Do you mean the kids' anxiety or yours? Like, what do you mean when you say anxiety and fear?
So specifically the fear of being a parent. So like when you first get the child and they place the baby on your body or in your arms, automatically your thoughts are, oh my gosh, what is this? What am I doing? Where's the manual? Am I going to hurt it? Am I going to break it? Oh my gosh. The pressure that you feel knowing that, okay, now this life that has been gifted to you is in your hands.
Yeah. It's interesting too because that anxiety and fear grows with your child. It's like when they're an infant, you worry about them, oh my gosh, did I put them down to sleep right? Are they going to make it to the whole, and then as they become toddlers, you don't have to worry about that anymore. A different set of things comes in.
Are they going to drop upon their head?
Right.
And
just as they continue to grow,
it's like
the anxiety and that fear can take on different faces.
My fears are the fear of something happening to them, the fear of their future not going the way God designed, and teaching them, making sure that I'm teaching them how to deal with sin and how to have a relationship with God that will cause them to grow and to live out the purpose that God has for their lives. And also the fear of failing them as a parent. You want to do your best as a parent. And for me personally, sometimes I feel like that song says, I did my best, but I guess my best isn't good enough. Like, I don't want that to be the answer. And I know that within myself, there is imperfection. And my children are not going to come out perfect. But there is always that mindset, that little voice in your head that says, oh my gosh, I could fail them. I could wreck them. The decisions that I make right now could totally ruin them, and those are fears. All of those fears and all of those anxieties, I constantly have to bring back to the Lord. The Lord will remind me. He'll remind me of Philippians 4:6, and as be anxious for nothing, but in everything with thanksgiving, present your requests to the Lord.
We want to equip them to grow, both on a personal level, on a social level, and of course on a spiritual level. We want them to be able to, we want to set the example and give them the foundation that they need to be good people in the midst of other people, and then to be good followers of Christ.
Exactly. You can actually pass those anxieties and fears down to your children.
Yeah, and teach them how to live fearfully and live anxiously. Even if you're telling them the opposite, you can actually teach them how to be successfully led by fear.
Right. For us, we want to make sure that we are practicing what we preach, doing what we say, living what we say we believe, because children will always see and imitate. They don't necessarily hear and imitate, but the actions actually speak. I think that goes for everyone.
Yeah,
it actually speaks louder than what you're saying. So if you're living in a state, and I'm talking about a state of anxiety and fear, we're not talking about people who have been diagnosed with anxiety or anything like that. We're talking about you're allowing your mind to take you down a road
You don't have the capacity to alter where that road ends.
Right.
When you live like that.
As believers, it is important to focus in on the root of that fear, because sometimes the root of the fear is a control. Like, I want to have my kids with me all the time because I'm the one who I believe I'm the one that can protect them.
Right.
And if it's outside of me, then no one else can protect them like I can. Of course, I'm their mother, but I also have to give up some trust. So it's really a multi-layered thing. And it's for individuals, I think, to examine, like, why do I feel so fearful? Why do I feel so anxious? Even though I'm giving my child to someone that I trust, that is proven to be trustworthy.
Why can I not still be in a state of trust and rest now that I've given this person my kids?
But these are legitimate feelings, and they're feelings that I feel, that I don't think there's a day that goes by where I don't feel some type of moment or a snapshot out of my day of fear, of something happening to my children, or something happening to their future, or failing them, you know. And that's something that I'm working through as far as my own personal insecurities, my own pride, my own need to control. But I think the most thing is to be aware of that.
One of the other things that's hard about parenting is dealing with growth.
Yeah, dealing with growth. For me, in the past 2 years, since we've had our last child, it's been such a challenge. I'm dealing with growth. There are two things happening when you become a parent. You have to deal with yourself and your child. So for me, it is so hard to navigate. All right, well, I'm going through my go-through, but I still have to function and deal with my kids as they're going through their go-through.
I have to be intact and together enough to grow them. And I think that whenever you talk about growth as a parent, you do always have to talk twofold, because you don't start out being a parent. You start out being a single individual, right? You go from being an individual that can kind of function on your own to now having a shadow and a reflection of yourself. So the only way that you can now raise up a child is you have to grow into becoming a parent. So the only way for you to grow your children is for you to be growing as well. Because as they grow into different needs and demands, that puts the demand on you to grow to meet them there. And to be able to push them forward. For
sure. And I think it's seen when you start seeing your children imitate behaviors that you're like,
oh man,
ooh, is
I know
that
exactly
me?
Where you got that from, unfortunately.
I believe that sassiness is actually me, you know. I don't like that. Oh, or that's how you
so
respond.
Angry all the time.
It's like, ooh, okay, you know.
Oh,
why do you get stressed out so easily? Ooh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So you are having those two growth tracks happening simultaneously. And sometimes it's hard. Like, I'm going through my go-through and I just want to hide in the closet, but I can't because I got to feed these kids. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot to balance, and I think it's something that I'm still learning. Obviously, there's a flow, but I think what has helped me is honestly knowing that I want to continue to grow in God, and I don't want to stay the same in life, period.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to have these experiences and not allow them to actually make me a better person.
Just the fact that you have children is going to put you in a place where they are inherently calling more from you. You know, and it's one thing to say, oh, you know, I want to go through my go-through, but I have to eat, you know, I have to feed you guys. It's also, you know, there's another level to that too, because like sometimes in the middle of you just wanting to deal with you, they have their own crisis moment. And it's not about food, it's like, you know, their own personal crisis moment where they're breaking down. And you have to be able to step outside of yourself and enter into their moment and help grow them in that time. And sometimes the timing is very inconvenient, but the demand is no less intense.
Right. And so I find the ways to get through that is, one, going to God, having my cry in the closet, help me Jesus. Two, being honest with the children. I don't know if this is for everybody, but for us, we are very honest with them.
Oh, you mean with what we're dealing with?
With what we're dealing with. So, you know.
Yeah, without putting it on them.
Right.
Without putting the burden on them and just giving them a moment to hold the mirror up.
Without putting the pressure on them, like, you are the problem. No, because they're not the problem. Mommy just needs a moment to recollect herself.
Right. There's two ways that you could put the burden on them.
Right.
And that's by making them feel like they are the problem.
Right, which
and
you
then
don't
the
do.
other half of that is making them feel like they have to fix your problem.
Right, which you don't do.
Yeah, we're very careful about saying, hey kids, this is what I'm dealing with, but this is what I'm believing God for. And I just want you to know, you're just bringing them into that moment, into that space. Not with any kind of responsibility, but just to bear witness to what it means to live out your faith in those moments.
But really, the situation is mostly me with God, us with God. When I'm walking with and being led by the Spirit of God, there are so many things that function better for the household, for the children, for myself. But when I am not walking with, I'm not reading my word, or I'm not praying, or I'm not really spending time with the Lord, or I'm not trusting Him, then that affects me spiritually, emotionally, and it affects the entire household. And I think it goes for him too. Obviously, if he's not doing that either, it's
definitely a lot of little things. Like, even if I'm not spending my time with God and tapping in for myself, even like for me, it's patience. I lose my patience.
And he, is the most patient person in the household.
So
2019, pray for me, y'all.
When that starts to go, everybody feels it, you know.
Yeah.
I feel it for myself. I get less patient with her. I get less patient with them. So when they lose patience with each other, instead of me being able to come in and diffuse the situation, it's more like an accelerant.
Yeah.
You know, I come in and everything just kind of...
Because it's once daddy goes downhill, like, the kids are like, oh my gosh. They're like, I'm like, daddy's coming, and he's not happy. They're like, oh my gosh, we gotta get it together.
Before I get there, because...
Galatians 5:16 is something that I'm always reminded of. Don't be led by the flesh, but go follow after the Spirit. Let the Spirit of God lead. Because when I look at the works of the flesh, they're like angry outbursts, jealousy, things that I know I've done that I don't want to do. So I want to walk by the fruit of the Spirit and show my kids, like, this is what it looks like when you say that you love God. This is what it looks like to show that you love God. And ultimately hope that in the footsteps that the path that we lay out for them, that God has shown us, they will follow into that as well. The other part of that, dealing with growth, is, so it's me growing, it's you growing. We're talking mostly about spiritual growth, but then there's also the individual growth with each child. So I would not want to have another child, just because for me it gets so much more difficult to manage growth when you're dealing with different people, different personalities, different purposes.
It's easy to say, okay, I have kids, so I know I have to get them fed, I have to keep them clean, I have to make sure they're protected, and I have to make sure they learn. But then when you have to break down, like, okay, how do I make sure this one learns? Because this one learns in a different way from the boy. And the older boy learns in a different way from the younger boy. I don't even have to start teaching the younger boy yet. It's easy to just kind of categorize parenting and to say, okay, I got to make sure the kids are fed, that they know how to dress themselves, they know how to take a bath. But when you have to break down things on an individual level, it gets very, very interesting, to say the least.
Murky, muddy.
Yeah.
And you don't want to treat every child the same because they're not the same.
You can't.
So that, for me, like that whole just the growth, it's just so much.
It's very
it's like I just want to pulling my hair because that's what it feels like.
Even for things like eating, like the way that you encourage one child to finish their food is different from another. The incentives that you can give for one don't work for this one. So even though we're just talking about
that you can give for one, may not work for the other.
So even though we're talking about something simple as just getting them to finish the food on their plate, with 4 different kids, there's 4 different approaches.
Yeah.
So
this is not to make you all feel bad about parenting. Parenting is great. It's fantastic. But we're talking about the hardest things. So we're going to talk about the most rewarding things also. But the hardest things are they're just hard. I mean, as anything in life, things have their rewards and they also have the challenges. But the challenges are always so that you can actually improve.
Make it to where you can reap the rewards.
Yeah. So I think that's me. I don't want to say that's me, but those are like my top 2 hardest things.
Another aspect of dealing with the children individually is being intentional about being interactive with them. I know for me it's very easy to say, okay, I have to deal with this. I have to make sure that dinner gets put on. I have to make sure that I have this stuff ready for work. Or I have to make sure that I get you through your homework. So I don't always feel like I have the time to have kiddie moments with them and to be with them in their world on their level.
Right.
And that takes me stopping and having to say, okay, you know what? Let me go there with them. So that if we're doing homework, I can have a silly moment with them and come down to their level. If I'm in the middle of working, I can let them interrupt me and take me away from that work and take me into their world for a moment and show them that I value them where they are. And that
more than the things that you have to
they're not just a project that I have to work on amidst the many other projects that I have to work on. I want them to feel like, not only like children, but like they're my precious children. Right. And that's not something that happens automatically. For me, I have to be very intentional about saying, okay, you know what? This is not really a priority right now. Let my kids know that they're my priority for life. You know, that family is more important than work. That family is more important than, even when I'm trying to do my music. You know, family is more important than my personal passion. Like, you know, and these things are important to me. They know those things are important to me. So I need to let them know that they are important to me inherently because of who they are. Because of the fact that they're my children. So that I have to often stop and just enter their world on their terms and be with them there. And let them know that I love them while they're there.
Right. I think that's awesome. And I think for sure that is very important because children know. They know. How come you don't play with me anymore? And think we make it a point after our oldest son, we kind of realized he was getting lost in the shuffle. At that point, he was the middle child, and he was just kind of getting lost. And so, you know, Tyler took it upon himself to just say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I have some intentional, specific, one-on-one time with my boy.
Yeah.
And it really helped to break him out of whatever it is that he's going through. I still feel like he still feels some of that. But we still try to be intentional. All right, I'm going to the grocery store. Who wants to come with me? Usually it's everyone, but sometimes we'll just take one. All right, you're going on the road with me today. You know, or we're going to have boy time, and then we're going to have girl time. So girls come with me, boys go with daddy, and we separate, and everyone gets to have their time. And those things are important so that, they feel like they matter. They're not just they're not just a sidecar to the motorcycle, but they're actually on the ride with us. They're there too.
And they matter.
And they matter. Like that's very important for them to know.
Yeah. We talked earlier about dealing with them, growing them individually. And that's very much a part of it, is being intentional with them on their level, but not just all together all the time. Also just like coming into Sakir's world and finding out what it's like to be a boy for him in this time. You know, coming into Selah's world and just finding out what it's like to be this carefree little girl who doesn't have to deal with school or anything else and can be as loud as she wants to in her own head, you know. Coming into her world, coming into Sarai's world, who is this mini mother figure who's looking out for everybody in the family, those older and those younger. And just being with them in their spaces. That's something that, for me, definitely requires
time and patience. And really putting yourself, you know,
out the way.
Yeah, and just saying,
for
it's
their
all
sake.
about you. Because I don't really like spiders. But I'll play Spider game if I have to. And I actually like Spider-Man. But, you know, you want to play Spider-Man? Let's go. I'll be the bad guy. You know? Playing those things and making, like, building blocks, building tower, just being there intentionally. And the second thing I want to add about being intentional is being intentional about teaching children the Word of God. Sunday is not the only day that we're talking to our kids about Jesus. It just can't be. We don't want to raise our children with the cultural mindset that church, relationship with God, only happens at church, only happens on Sunday.
Yeah, we don't want to raise them to be church goers. We want to raise them to know that God knows them and they can know God, and that can be a beautiful lifelong experience.
Right, and not once a week or twice a week. So every day they're seeing it, even in the positive ways and the negative ways. Even if I react in a way that's not positive towards them, it always comes back, all right, guys, I was not reflecting the Lord. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask God to forgive me, and I'm going to ask you to forgive me as well. Because I didn't respond. I mean, that just happened recently. We all had a moment of just like confession and forgiveness. And it was something that we want to teach our children, that no matter young or old, like their faith journey doesn't have to start when they're grown up.
Yeah,
they don't need to just wait until they get older to get to know God or ask for forgiveness or, you know, confess their wrongs. They don't have to wait. They can do that now. So, but that does take intentionality.
Yeah.
All right.
It takes a focused effort. It's not something that happens by itself
and
or
it
naturally.
Can't, right, and it cannot be left into the hands of other people. Meaning, Sunday school teacher. You know, it can't just be left. It has to be something that's intentional, focused. Every opportunity is an opportunity to learn more about who God is.
Right. And learning to learn who they are.
Right.
You know, getting them to recognize themselves at this age and to respond to that, to embrace the things that they like and to know that they have the room to change the things that they don't. Mm-hmm. You know, knowing that they have the capacity to have a dynamic walk, even at this young age.
So, those are our things, our top 3 things. Anxiety and fear, being intentional and interactive
and then
with
dealing
their
with
children,
growth.
And dealing with growth.
So
thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments.
What's on your list? Do you resonate with any of the things? Are there some really important things that you would have put on your list that you feel we didn't have on ours? Or, you know,
let us know. But thank you for watching.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one.